I was able to completely change my life around from making $0 to making hundreds of thousands of dollars from sports cards. During this entire journey, I found 7 key habits I wish I knew earlier. These 7 habits will save you from losing all of your money and wasting all of your time that you'll never get back. So please be sure to pay attention and watch this whole entire video. This one is very good. So let's get into it. All right, habit number 1. This is pretty simple. Understanding liquidity. What's a good sports card from not a good sports card? There are certain cards out there that are desirable. There are certain types of cards out there that are not. Let's take baseball. Bowman Chrome is the best types of cards. So when people say to me, I can't sell my cards, nothing's selling, it's either because it's overpriced or you have stuff that nobody wants. Let's take, for example, baseball leaf. Leaf is a product that's not nearly as desirable. So what I used to do when I first got into sports cards, I would buy all these different products, right? Like leaf baseball, flawless baseball, Bowman Chrome baseball. And I'm just using baseball as an example here. I would see, the Bowman Chrome stuff would sell like that. Even when I would buy it, get it graded and sell it, the leaf stuff would never make me any money. So understanding what are good products. So for baseball, to keep it very simple, really any types of top stuff, top series, Topps Heritage, Topps Chrome update, stuff like that. And while I'm talking right now, Topps recently got the license for basketball and football, so that's going to change as well. So licensed products do better. What a licensed product means, now Topps has the license to put the NFL logo and NFL teams on their cards. So those cards are considered the true rookie cards. However, a few months ago or a year ago, Panini used to have the license for basketball and football, but it recently changed. So when I first got into the hobby, Panini had the license. I would buy all sorts of football stuff, but I started to realize, wait a second, the Panini stuff would always do better. To boil it down a little bit, Prism football did very well for me. Flawless football did very well for me. This stuff is liquid. It's stuff people want, as opposed to, once again, unlicensed products like Leaf. A lot of Leaf stuff just doesn't sell that well. But now while I'm speaking, Topps has the license, so the Panini stuff is not nearly going to be as good anymore. So I'd imagine like Topps Chrome football, they might do Topps Dynasty football. And same thing with basketball. It's very similar to football. Prism basketball would do very well because Panini had the license. So buying licensed products, these products are a lot more liquid. That's number 1. Number 2, the way I got my start in sports cards, and really what I teach people to do, buy cards, get them graded, flip them, and sell them. A key part of that is knowing how to evaluate the condition of card. The name of the game really is, when you're buying a card online, can you evaluate the condition? So hopefully most of the cards you buy are in good condition. You send them off to PSA, which is the main grading company you usually want to use. If it's in good condition, the card will grade a 10. And you'll double, triple, quadruple your money. Now, there's 4 pieces of criteria when it comes to buying, grading, and selling cards, and specifically grading, evaluating condition. You have corners, edges, centering, and surface. Once I properly understood how to evaluate these pieces of criteria, or subgrades as they call it in sports cards, everything changed for me, because I went from getting about 30 to 50% of my cards to get a PSA 10 to 70% plus. I was making over double the money once I firmly understood. And some important things to understand when it comes to grading cards with PSA, which is the main company, what they care about most are corners. Corners need to be pretty close to perfect to get a PSA 10. It needs to be a sharp right angle. So something I stopped doing was buying colored cards. So cards with coloring on the back being all black, a card like that is going to chip easier than if a card was all white. So I started buying easier cards to grade once I understood the different subgrades. Surface is a little bit harder to see online. My rule of thumb with Surface, if it has 2 surface problems, I'll never send it in for grading. I try to buy cards with no surface problems. If you've ever bought and sold cards before, when you buy cards in and get them in the mail, you're just going to see stuff in person that was just too hard to see in the picture. But if it has 1 small surface thing, if it's small, I'll send it in. 2, I'm out. Edges are pretty self-explanatory. You just want to make sure there's no whiting on the edge. And the centering. So the centering is also pretty easy to see online. So you should never really get cards in the mail that surprise you when it comes to either centering, corners, or edges. The only thing that should ever surprise you is surface. And like I said, my rule of thumb with surface is if there's 2 dings, I'm out. Number 3, understanding the sweet spot where to buy cards. This is a very common question I get. Like, how much should the cards I buy be worth? The sweet spot is usually in the $75 to $300 range. My rule of thumb when it comes to buying cards is I want to at least 2 times my money. So if I buy a card for $100 and then it's going to cost me $20 to get the card graded, let's call it another $20 in shipping and stuff. So I'm into the card for $140. I want to make sure I can at least net $280 out of the card if it gets a PSA 10. So what I started to notice is the profit margins on cards in the $100, $200 range are a lot better than cards at $2,000. So let me explain. It is easier to find a card for $100 that'll be worth $300 as a PSA 10 than buying a card for $1,000 and finding a card for $3,000 if it's graded a 10. The reason being is this: cards that are $100, $200 are obviously much more affordable. So when you go and sell that card as a PSA 10, you're selling this card to a collector, someone who wants to invest in that specific player. There's going to be more demand, more people bidding, more offers for a card in the few $100 range rather than a card in the few $1,000 range, just simply because it's more affordable. It gets an extra 20-30% boost as a PSA 10. Point I'm trying to make: it's easier to find cards with a higher profit margin from raw to a PSA 10 in that few $100 range rather than the few $1,000 range. One of the most common things people say to me is, I have all this money, I have $30,000 to spend. Should I be buying cards that are $1,000 plus? My answer is no. I would rather have 10 $100 cards than one $1,000 card because the profit margins are bigger. Also, a lot of the time these cards are easier to grade because people are lazy and don't want to get cards that are worth $100 graded. They'll get cards worth $1,000 graded, so they're a lot easier to find as well. Number 4, kind of more on the simple side of things, is using the right grading company. So when I got into sports cards, Beckett was the main grading company. Really, it's Beckett, SGC, and PSA. These are the main grading companies for grading sports cards. Now, to keep it simple, PSA is, for the most part, what you're going to use 95% of the time. There's a few instances where using Beckett or using SGC might be a little bit better. So if my bankroll is $1,000 or under and I didn't have as much money to spend, I would use SGC in the beginning because the cards come back to you a lot faster. You're making less profit per card, but you don't want to buy $1,000 in cards, send them to PSA, and wait 2 months for them to get back to you because that's the wait time. As I'm speaking right now, you might want to send them to SGC, get them back in a week or two, and you could turn that money over faster so you can get a bankroll big enough to be able to buy cards consistently and send them to PSA so you don't have to sit on your hands. You want to be buying 5 cards per week and being able to do that over the course of every single week before you ever get cards back from PSA, so you can create what I call an avalanche effect. Once these cards start to come back from PSA, they're coming back to you every single week. One of the worst things I see people do is they buy a bunch of cards, try and get them graded. They might buy cards and just wait. You don't want to wait, because the reality of sending cards in for grading, number 1, you want to create consistency. I'm sure everybody here likes consistent cash flow. Number 2, you could just have bad luck with the grading order. Your cards may have went to a grader that was not having a good day. He gave all your cards a 9, right? You want to build up a bankroll big enough to consistently send cards to PSA. If you don't have a bankroll that could last you 2 months, usually it's going to be a few $1,000s of just buying without ever getting cards back from PSA. I look at SGC. Then Beckett is the other grading company. Really, the only time I use Beckett is with higher end cards now. So it's funny, it's kind of sad. I actually like Beckett cards more than PSA, but just a Beckett 9.5 doesn't sell for nearly what a PSA 10 does, so it doesn't make sense to send them to Beckett anymore. With higher end cards worth a few $1,000s or more, if I get one in the mail that's corners a little bit not that great, so I know it's probably going to get a PSA 9, I'll send it to a Beckett to get that Beckett 9.5, because a Beckett 9.5, generally speaking, is easier to get than a PSA 10. So kind of knowing how to navigate the grading companies. Beckett for higher end cards if it's not going to grade at PSA. SGC if you're kind of broke. Number 5, this is something that's boring, but people just seem to fail to do it, even in our coaching program, where people literally pay us to learn how to make money with sports cards, is tracking your data. Let me give you a simple instance of this. People come up to me all the time and they're like, oh my God, Eric, I sold $5,000 in sports card. I'm like, oh yeah, great. How much money did you make on that? And they have no idea. You want to be able to track your data, and it's very simple. Number 1, track the date you purchased the card. Number 2, track who or where you bought the card from with a link in a Google spreadsheet. So you can go back to that person or back to that source, because if you're able to buy a card once for one person, chances are you could do it multiple times over. Number 3, obviously include how much much you paid for the card, right? Number 4, how much you spent in grading fees or shipping, whatever. Number 5, how much you sold it for. Number 6, how much you actually netted after fees. And number 7, who you actually sold the card to. Keeping track of this data, number 1, you can actually see how much money you're making, right? That's probably important. Number 2, you're able to go back to who you sold cards to or who you bought cards from. If you've ever been in the world of business, people say that the wealth is in the list. What that means is just keeping track of your list of who you've done deals with is super beneficial, right? This is data that's yours and you want to be able to capitalize on that data. The next one would be building relationships. This is kind of similar. People ask me, where's the best place to sell cards, or where's the best place to buy cards from? And I have a pretty simple answer for you. The best place is people on your phone. You buy cards, you get them graded. Let's say you spent $1,000 in cards and now these cards are worth $2,000. Great. You know, in the beginning, when you're first starting your business, you're gonna have nobody to sell them to. You're gonna have to go to eBay or post them on a Facebook group or go to card shows. But once you go to Facebook or even eBay, if you pull the person off of eBay, you want to grab this person's phone number or their Facebook and put it in that spreadsheet that I just talked about before. In the future, when you get cards back from grading, how great would it be to just text somebody, hey, you want these cards? They will probably give you a decent offer. If they gave you a decent offer before, when they pay you, they're not paying you through eBay where you're going to incur a 13% fee. Once you've done deals with somebody, usually they trust you enough, they're just going to wire you or send you Venmo or PayPal or Zelle or whatever, and there's zero fee. You just added an extra 10% to your profit margin because you're not paying fees anymore. And also you're able to sell the cards way faster. The faster you sell the cards, the faster you get money back, the faster you're able to reinvest. And I also have a bonus one for you if you stay to the end after number 7. Number 7 is understanding scaling in wealth management when it comes to sports cards. So this is my simple progression when it comes to buying and selling sports cards. You buy, grade, and sell sports cards to make a few $1,000s a month, or hopefully 5, maybe even $10,000 plus a month. That's number 1. Number 2, then you deploy a strategy. I call it short-term investing, where instead of buying and grading, now what you're doing, you're buying cards already graded in the off season and selling them into the season, or as we get close to the season. After a certain amount of money spending on buying and grading cards, it's hard to find that many raw cards out there. So buying cards already graded gets a little bit easier. So an example I can give you is I bought a Shohei Ohtani Bowman Chrome card. I think it was like $5,000 in the off season this time last year around November. And then I waited a few months. It was already graded and I ended up selling it for like $7,000 or something like that. Bought it, held it, sold it as we got closer to the season, because you can spend more money when it comes to buying cards already graded. They're just easier to find. And then once you scale past that and you have hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend, buying the right types of vintage cards to just hold long term and getting in good are great long-term strategies. You might hear me talk about on this channel my 1933 Gaudy Ruth collection. I never show it because it's all the way in New Jersey, but that collection, yeah, it's not huge. I was buying it since I've been like 19 or 20. I invested a total of like $40,000 or $50,000. Maybe it's like 7 or 8 cards. That investment has over tripled because I was buying the right cards. I was buying them at the right time. So understanding like the scaling roadmap, you could call it, from buying and grading to short-term investing and then buying vintage. And I have 2 bonuses to share with you because I feel like these are important. I actually just thought of these as I was going through this. Number 1, stop opening up packs and boxes and breaking. It's a fun thing to do, but it's a gamble. You're going to lose money in the long run. It's literally just a live casino. I'd rather play roulette because roulette has better odds than opening up a pack or a case of cards. Okay, that is a great way to lose money. Treat it like a ticket to a sports game. I'm just gonna have fun tonight. Number 2 is timing. Most young players fail. So what you should be doing when it comes to buying and grading and selling, I'm buying baseball, I'm buying prospects in November, December, maybe in a little bit of January. I'm selling them in February, March, right before the baseball season. Then I'm going into football. I'm buying football in February, March, April, May, selling that in June, July. Then I'm buying basketball July, August, September, and I'm selling it before the basketball season starts in October, and I'm continuing that cycle because most young players fail. Look at all the quarterbacks and their card values are down. Bo Nix, down. Caleb Williams, down. McCarthy, down. Jaden Daniels, down a lot. The only one who's up a little bit is Drake May. Once you understand timing the market, that should be hovering around everything I say. Buy low, sell high. Oh, something is only an opportunity when no one else sees it as an opportunity. So right now, buying a prospect of a baseball guy, no one's buying them. No one wants to buy that stuff. People are still buying football. People are buying basketball because it just started while I'm speaking right now. Understand that thoroughly and be disciplined with it. There's a PDF in the description down below. It's free value. It goes over what I'm saying about saying step by step so you can print it out. It's a cheat sheet. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.